Hi, I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about ad rhetoric and the elements of design. With ad rhetoric, you really want to think about rhetorical context. Rhetorical context is basically meaning what the ad is saying, what it's trying to persuade someone of, which is to buy a product, and who it's trying to persuade. Some key questions for rhetorical context. What is the ad trying to sell? Sometimes that's obvious, not always. Whom is the ad trying to sell to? Where did the ad appear? Knowing where and how the ad appeared gives a lot of insight into whom the ad is selling to. For example, Cosmopolitan has a very different audience than Sports Illustrated, and a company would likely put different ads in each magazine. Think about how each ad fits in with the brand's image, and also with its other marketing. One thing you might do if you have a magazine that you've gotten an ad from is search for its media kit. This is the media kit for O magazine. The Oprah magazine. As you can see, it gives a lot of insight into who their audience is. So for instance, you can see that the median household income for people who buy the print edition is $80,000 a year. For the digital, it's $99,000 a year. 74% of people who read it in print have graduated from college. 79% of people who read it digitally have graduated from college. This would let companies know that if they have more money, if they have higher cost products, they might want to advertise in a magazine because of how much money the audience for it makes. Also, the audience tends to skew younger. Over 1/3 of people who read it digitally are millennials. Nearly 1/3 of people who read it in print are millennials, as opposed to people who are middle-aged. The screen on the top right gives a little bit about circulation, how many people read it. 10 million people read it in print, 7.8 million different people access it on the web each month. 2.2 million people pay to buy a subscription to it. $17 million in products have been bought off of a direct link from the Oprah website, or someone has clicked on the ad and bought the product directly. So it gives you kind of an idea of how many people an ad that you buy from O would reach. It also tells you how much it would cost to buy an ad. On the bottom right, you can see the rates are the cost. So for instance, a full page ad in color would be $163,000. In black and white, it would be only $126,000. Elements of design are the choices that an advertiser makes when they're creating an ad. Basically, they could be anything from color to text to the font to how people are posed. Some overall considerations to think about with elements of design. What tone or emotion does the ad project? Think about how it makes you feel. You might think about if the ad looks professional or amateurish, or if it's masquerading as an article. Companies pay a lot of money for ads, so if it looks like it's amateurish or not made by a professional, that's because they want it to look that way. Think about what grabs your attention or fails to grab your attention. And you always want to think about why they make the choices that they do. So for example, this is an ad for Crayola crayons that looks like it was made by a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. Why would they want to make it look like that? Perhaps because parents are going to be buying the crayons. Parents might think this is cute. This is an ad that was in a travel magazine. Sometimes these ads will say something like paid content, editorial content, or advertisement in small print at the top or the bottom of the page. In this one, it looks like it's an advertisement. It says 4 cities, 4 days. It's in the travel magazine. It looks like it's an article about traveling to 4 cities, 1 city each day to take a little mini vacation. But it's actually an advertisement for a Lexus. If you read the article, it mentions how easy it is to drive from place to place in a Lexus, how they get good mileage because they're in this Lexus. It's comfortable because they're in an Lexus. So the word Lexus gets mentioned several times in the text of the article, although it looks like an actual article. This is done because people don't like to be advertised to. They feel like ads pressure them. And if they read it in an article, it feels more credible. And people are more likely to be persuaded by the product if they don't think they're being advertised to. Layout. Layout is basically how the images in the text are organized on the page, the way that they appear. There's two kind of common ways to do layout in advertisements, and sometimes these get blended. These are Z format and the rules of thirds, and we'll look at a few examples of each. This is an example of Z format. It says Great American Dads at the top. You go down the middle and you see a picture of a dad with his daughter. And then at the bottom it says The Magic of Macy's. Basically, Z format, the idea is you've got something at the top of the page, something in the middle, and something at the bottom. When you read text, you read from left to right, then you go down to the next line and read from left to right. When you look at a picture, you make the same motion with your eyes, left to right, down, left to right. But you tend to take in the picture at once rather than reading it line by line. So a lot of times you'll see even the man's arm there kind of makes a bit of a Z line. The way that the collar of his shirt helps make that line also. It's parallel to the Nautica symbol on his shirt, the logo, kind of further emphasizing a tie to that brand. This is another example of an article using the Z format. This is for Bottega Veneta, which I think is a bag company. And you can see that the way the man is sitting here in his posed, he is making the Z line. So you would look over, see his face, cross across his body, and then go across and read the name of the company. This is for Sisley, which is a fashion company. And as you go across the top of it, you get to the girl on the right's head. The way that her eyes are tilted helps make the Z line. You go down to the second girl, you see the name Sisley. You go down again, you see her nose helps make the Z line down to the straw, and you can see, whoa, what's going on in this advertisement that's equating drugs to fashion. So that would be another example of Z format. The rule of thirds is the idea that basically we don't really notice what's directly in front of us in the center of a picture. It's kind of due to the way our retinas are constructed. We're more likely to notice what's a third of the way in the page from the sides and a third in from the top and the bottom. So anywhere on these lines that are over the picture, and especially where they intersect, are the places where we're most likely to notice something in an advertisement. So for instance, a third of the way into the screen, we see this Corona beer bottle. On a third of the way in from the left and a third of the way up from the bottom is where the logo is. A third of the way in from the right and a third of the way up from the bottom is where the main text of the ad is. This is targeting Chicago hockey fans. In this case, only served best with a cup. It's a reference to the Stanley Cup, which the Chicago Blackhawks had won. So fans of that team will notice that because of where it's placed. This is another example of an ad using the rule of thirds. Here you've got Nicolas Cage in the upper left quadrant, right where those lines intersect. The name of the company, Mont Blanc, which makes designer watches, is in the upper right intersection. At the bottom left intersection, we've got the watch on Nicolas Cage's arm. At the bottom right intersection, we've got the text right above it, and right below it, we've got the watch itself, a close-up of the watch. One of the things here is it's also not only using the rule of thirds, it's also using Z format. If you go from Nicolas Cage's eyes across to the logo and then scroll down, the way his arm, the cuff on his shirt sleeve helps make the Z line, which goes right between the collar of his shirt and the watch. It takes you down to the paragraph about the watch, and then you go across to the picture of the watch. This is another example of rule of thirds. This is an ad for Adidas. A third of the way down the page, you've got the Adidas logo in blue, and then it says Originals by Rita Ora. A third of the way up from the bottom, it splits, so you've got two pictures that take up about a third of page each in columns at the top. And then at the bottom, you've got 2 pictures, which make up 1/6 of the page at the bottom. And so you've got those 2 extra pictures come in 1/3 of the way from the bottom. She's standing 1/3 of the way in from the left and 1/3 of the way in from the right in the 2 pictures at the top. So you've got a lot of different rules of thirds going on in this advertisement. Another thing to think about is the people in advertisements. Think about demographics. That's the age, the race, gender, social class. What can you tell about the people pictured? That gives you an insight into who they're targeting in the advertisement and who they're trying to market their products to. Think about if the people are portrayed in a positive light or a negative light. If the ad's portraying them in a positive light, it's probably because it wants to sell to them. Sometimes an ad will mock someone or make fun of them and see them in a negative light, often if they're using a different product. Think about the relationship of the people in the ad with each other. Think about the relationship with the audience. Think about the relationship to the product. What does their body language communicate with each other? What are the people looking at? Are they looking at each other? Are they looking at you? Are they looking at the product? What angle are the people shown from? Are they close up or far away? In terms of the angle people are shown from, when you look at someone from down below, they tend to look larger. This is an example of a picture which is taken from down below. We see it's looking up into the sky. And this model, who I'm assuming is not actually as tall as these skyscrapers, looks as though she could be Godzilla or King Kong because of the camera angle. Similarly, if you shoot someone and they're below the camera, they tend to look smaller. In this case, we've got the guy on the right, looks about normal size. It's selling to him. It's a company that you pay them and they will schedule payments for your bills. In this case, he's apparently paid for a cruise ship vacation, but now he's broken his arm and he's just sitting watching the pool. His wife is in the pool, but she looks a lot smaller, a lot more comically. We aren't supposed to take her as seriously. One of the things in there is some people could say that's good because it puts more focus on this man who's supposed to be buying the product. And it may be in a publication which is focusing towards men. Other people might see it as sexist because it's suggesting that the woman would not be able to pay the bills. So different ways that people would look at it could be seen as either positive or negative. Sometimes you want to think about the setting and the story. With setting is both when and where. Thinking about when the ad is set gives you an idea of, helps you think about what's going on in it. You can also think if there's a story, like in the last ad we looked at, the man would be the protagonist. The conflict would be he's broken his arm and leg. Because he's broken his arm, he can't go online and pay it because he can't use the keyboard and the mouse. But luckily, he's already scheduled it with his company, so the conflict is solved. This would be an example of an ad which is kind of nostalgic, using the past to help sell a product. This is a Facebook ad, but it looks like it came out of the 1950s. This is an ad for Coca-Cola, which is using Elvis, also using Z format. You can see the line of Elvis's glasses help make the Z format there to sell Coca-Cola. Original taste since 1886, making us focus again on the past. Some ads are futuristic. This is an ad for Dassault Systems. Dassault Systems is a company owned by IBM. This is trying to get people to give money and invest money so that they can make nano robots which will perform surgery for you by taking a pill. This is another one that's futuristic. These are for Nike shoes. Colors are another thing in advertisements. Think about the associations you make with color. Red is often seen as passion. That can be both anger or romance. Green can be seen as envy or life. Blue can be seen as sadness or confidence. Yellow often means happiness. So different colors have different feelings associated with them. Think